What are some of the biggest differences you found now in the industry in women's boxing from when you started till today?
Well,
And
the
that was a
biggest.
great, by the way, historic moment because uh, Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano was announced. Is the super fight is going to happen? Historical, first time women are headlining a pay per view, Madison Square Garden. It's gonna be sold out. I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, go ahead.
I would say the biggest difference is that when I was in the amateurs, women weren't competing in the Olympics, and that the girls who were pros, like that are around my age but had turned pro a few years performing, women weren't allowed in the Olympics. We weren't invited in the Olympics. So what we're seeing now is different classes of Olympians who are coming out and garnering the respect and the attention from big promotions like
Hmm.
Matchroom and Top Rank, and girls are getting signed to Golden Boy because they're coming out of the international ranks, where as prior to 2012, girls weren't allowed to box in the Olympics. A second big change from 2012 to now is the advancement of social media and how easy it is to connect with fans and to connect with people internationally. So,
Hmm.
um, and the third, I would say, is DAZN or any kind of streaming service that allows people to watch you fight. I remember when girls in my gym and Gleason's would go overseas to fight, and we'd all kind of just get on the phone with the coaches afterwards and say, "What happened? How did it go?" Because we would have no opportunity to really watch these epic world title fights that were happening because women's boxing was so under the radar.
Yeah, and I think for me personally, the surge of MMA has the mixed martial arts has really helped because you're actually officially the first guest in our new. We have this hashtag Women's Boxing 2020 2022 campaign going on because I think, and I've always said this, it's gonna be this is the year. And even last year, I was saying next year is going to be the year for women's boxing. And now, like with these new announcements, I'm like, well, 100%. Like it seems like that's the case, and um, because MMA, like I really got into MMA many years ago, but boxing has always been like my first love. And I've always looked at like how they promote, how did they make it so that women get as much attention as the men? They get paid mostly equally to the men there, um, and I want that for boxing, like I want. And I understand that it's the way they're structured is different. Like MMA, you have the promotions and they have their own belts and they promote the organization more than the fighter. And boxing is very much individual based on the fighter. But like, what role do you think MMA has played? And do you think that pressure of the growth of MMA is pushing those promotions in boxing to sort of give women more attention?
I don't think so because I transitioned to MMA. I think I had my first fight in 2017. And, that was well into, I think Ronda Rousey had already lost her championship by then. Please don't quote me because there's a good chance I'm off
2013.
by a year or two. What's that?
2013, so?
So I was 2017. So
Okay, so
women's
yeah.
MMA had already been well into full force before I had gone into women's MMA, and I noticed a tremendous surge in my following and the way that MMA promoted me as opposed to boxing.
Hmm.
So boxing didn't look at Ronda Rousey and catch on. It was many, many, many years later, and I really can't help but attribute it to the Olympics. But
Hmm.
on another side, boxing really doesn't do a great job promoting its men either, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of really popular male fighters aren't household names to a casual boxing fan who might not understand somebody like the magnitude of a Terrence Crawford, right? Like just like if he was walking down the street, because he's not super promoted. He's
Yeah.
paid, but not like very well marketed, whereas like a baseball player, a basketball player, a football player is, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like he could just walk down the street, half the people wouldn't know who he is, and that's what Tyson Fury was saying, promoting the first fight with Wilder was, walk down the street, and the Wilder can walk down the street and nobody knows who he is, but like he
Yeah.
is the biggest knockout artist in the history of boxing. So, um, but yeah, so the Olympics, I think, isn't it Terry Harper came from the Olympics as well, didn't she?
I don't think so, but I don't
Yes.
know.
Not sure.
I don't
Okay.
think so.
You said the promotions aren't doing a good job at promoting the fighters, but then they're still dumping all these millions into them instead of making structural changes, maybe in the way they promote several fighters instead of this one big name.
Well, there's very little reason for any kind of boxing promoter to make any changes because they're all making a ton of money right now. So
Mm.
why would they want to change? You have someone like Jake Paul who is fighting as the main event on a show, and look what he did his last fight. He took part of his own purse and distributed it among the undercard because he felt like they deserved more money than he did as just being the main event, right? Like
Yeah.
things like that make positive changes, saying the rich get richer and the poor stay the same. He's like, no, I'm getting richer. I'm going to help everybody. And I mean, it's a mindset, but there's really
Yeah.
only way it could come is from the top.
Yeah, it's always okay. So it's a matter of distribution. It's what you get in big corporations as well. I was with my friend recently,
Sure,
and
it's
she's a
it's
banker. And she was saying like she gets paid peanuts compared to her boss. Her boss gets paid peanuts compared to her boss, and I guess it's a similar way. You think like there just needs to be a restructuring of the distribution of wealth, but then there'll be always those people complaining about losing on money. Because yeah. So Jake Paul, yeah, you touched upon it. Let's go there. I mean, we all didn't know what to think when it first happened. Like there was a lot of hate, there was a lot of pushback, but like the more it developed, the more it seemed like, oh, this whole thing was a marketing stunt for his for his promotion. Like in the end, the boxing promotion is something that he was planning to set up, and basically is now the front runner of leader in terms of promoting women's boxing. Like, do you think there should be just more of those, or maybe former boxers or current world champions doing something similar?
well, there are a lot of places right now and promoters who are doing a good job with women. A lot of women who are signed to boxing promoters, but not a lot of women who are making a lot of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Jake put Amanda as his co-main event, and he made all of his fans put them in direct contact with Amanda. And so you had not only like him giving her a chance, but he showcased her and he made people see her and made people want to see more of her. People loved her. And that's the idea of what promoting really is not just putting girls on the shows, because he could have put Amanda in the first or second slot and then said to Amanda, well, nobody really wants to see you. And that's how the history of women's boxing has gone. Women will get early slots on shows. Women will fight for world titles on a Wednesday or a Thursday night. Women will fight for world titles on undercards of big fight cards. And then the promoters will say that they aren't marketable. And Jake Paul said, no, look at this girl. I want everybody who sees me, I'm putting her as the co-main event so everyone can see how good she is. And then the fans loved her. Like they ate it up, not because she was a female or female boxing, because she was a really good fighter. Yes. And that's all that women are asking for. Give us the same that you give the boys. That's how men are promoted. Men aren't given Nike sponsorships. They're not put on mainstream TV. Men who are boxers get prominent spots on big fight cards so that all boxing fans see them. Women are still kind of shadowed a little bit. So they'll say, oh, well, this woman did a main event or this woman did a main event. It's not always about the main event. It's about how many eyes are you directing to this fight.
And I mean, it doesn't often correlate to how many fans they have either. Like, I'm pretty sure Amanda has a lot more of a following than a lot of these male headliners. But the pay is significantly less, like astronomically less, and that's what's unfair. And I think it's just that I feel like in boxing, the fan base is getting older, and they're just not used to seeing women fight as much as the younger generation. Or like this is where I think I say MMA helped, is because since like MMA really boomed and grew around the time where women were introduced as well. It's just by chance like that happened. And just men that got used to seeing those extreme fight, like last year or the 2 years ago, whatever it was a women's fight that won Fight of the Year because it was so great. And that's just, men are just used to seeing that. And it needs to be normalized, I think, in boxing in stages to the point that people or the older boxing audience wouldn't be surprised, so to say, to see a women's fight headline, and then they'll start buying tickets and the pay-per-views for those fights. I think it's like for me like a re-educating or like rewiring the brain of the audience. To me, do you agree with that?
No, because when these old people walk into a hospital with a broken leg, they're not sending a female doctor out of their hospital room. And if they call an Uber because they need a driver, they're not sending the female driver back. It's 2022. We're not breaking anyone in easy. We're not rewiring old brains. Women belong in all places. So when you have a great female who is internationally known, who's won Olympic gold medals, who is miles ahead in skill. And I'm not talking about myself. Like, that's really important for me to say. I'm not talking about Heather Hardy, because I recognize that I'm not in that Olympic, elite level of fighter. But there are a lot of women who deserve to be in those co-main event and main event spots on really tremendous fight cards. Like I've said for a long time, Katie Taylor shouldn't have won her undisputed titles on someone's undercard. Right? She should have been on the main portion of that show at Madison Square Garden. And I get a lot of shit for it. Maybe she made a lot of money. Maybe she was really happy. Maybe she's really grateful. Maybe she's the highest paid female in all of boxing. All of that aside, what I'm saying is not wrong. Because if she was a male world champion, a male Olympic gold medalist on their way up, they never would have done that at 6 p.m. on someone's undercard. So my thing is not how badly women are treated. It's just that it's not the same as men yet.
Yeah.
And there's no soft breaking it in. It's you just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's the leap that now, a Matchroom combined with MVP, Most Valuable Promotions, is doing. Essentially, they're like, okay, because like from the moment I can remember, they've been talking about this. How long have they been talking about this super fight?
Because it is a super fight.
Yeah, like have they been talking about it for like 4 or 5 years?
Super fight. And Amanda did the right thing. Amanda held out and made sure she was getting paid what she deserved.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And she was thanking her trainer, Jordan Maldonado. Like she said, he was like one of the he sort of like made sure she would wait and wait it out.
Yeah.
And now this blessing came. But basically what they're doing is they're taking this big leap. They're just going for it. They're just doing it. And I'm sure it will sell. And I really hope it outsells. It will outsell Bob Arum's show the same night.